Anyone watching this, I hope you're well. I wanted to talk to you for a while now, and I haven't done it. I had some things I needed to go to the doctor for over the holidays, and then I had to get out my cane and had some issues with my leg. And it just seemed like I didn't have the opportunity to make a video. And I was recovering, and I had to take care of myself first before I was able to share with you. So that's what I did. And now I'm able to share. And I have thought about writing a book. You know, there's a lot of deep things I could share. But for now, I feel like a lot of people watch YouTube and are all into technology, and this is a good way to come across. And maybe I should share my experience at this moment first before getting into the depths of how and why and things of this nature. Because it's important to share with each other where we are now. This is the key. Where are we now? Because now is all we have. And so I'm very grateful to have shared the holidays with my loving family, because I recognize that they are here now and I love them so much. Speaking of my family, my mother has been reading these coffee self-talk books. Apparently there are several of them. She gave me 2 of them and asked me to read them a while ago, and I just started reading this one. And it has you do daily practices. And some of these things I've practiced for a while now, but it's always nice to see things from a different perspective. And when we look at the astrology of, especially today, it's Mercury-Uranus transit. That is looking at things with a different perspective and not to act too quickly, to take your time. This whole week is meant for stillness. It's the beginning of the year. Things are still right now. Anyhow, this book, the author talks about, Kristen is her name. She talks about butterflies, monarch butterflies, and you giving your problems and handing them over and putting them on the wings of the butterfly, and the butterfly flies away. And this is a form of visualization. And this is a practice that many people do. They take their weights off their shoulders and they hand them over to God, right? We give it over to the higher power, right? We let go. And I enjoyed this because it was very simplistic, and it felt like it was easy to understand and many people could relate to it. Because what turns people off is usually that what they believe isn't what your belief is, or what they perceive your belief to be by what you say, and what you say just one time, or what you say, or what you study, or what you preach, whatever you put out there. And if they get a perception of it that, oh, you know, they're talking about Buddha, but I love Jesus, so I can't listen to that. Well, then you've missed something, because you should be able to at least listen to it. Even Jesus walked around and was able to love all people, no matter where they were from or who they were. He loved them all. And that's amazing. And we can learn from that. So I just want to say I really love my mom. And I'm really grateful that she's in my life. You know, everybody has hiccups with their family, and, you know, we've had ours, but the love that we have for each other has always remained the same, no matter what. You know, I have hiccups with my own daughter here and there, but, you know, there are these little moments when I would argue with my daughter and we would look at each other. We wouldn't argue too much. It would just be like, she's 9 and I'd ask her to do something and she didn't want to, and she would say, well, I don't want to do that right now. And, we'd go back and forth for a couple minutes, and then we'd look at each other and we'd laugh. And we both just start laughing because we'd look at each other and realize that we are not those things. We are the love in our hearts. We are not all these little bickerings and arguments, and then she realizes that, yes, she needs to be respectful and listen to what I'm asking her to do. I don't ask too much of her. It's simple little things, and as a child, those are things you teach your children to do, the little things you ask them to do, and it teaches them responsibility and how to get along in life, and that is the goal. So anyhow, those moments when we laugh at each other, because we know that it's silly to even go back and forth, because our love is much greater than that, and our truth is much greater than that. So I will continue to read this book. I've only read a little bit of it and work through it, and I will look at it as the perspective that my mother has used to help her in life. So it's always good to be open to new things. If you aren't open to new things, then you can't experience new things and you can't grow inside, because you block yourself off, because you get stuck in your belief system and you think this is the only way. But maybe it isn't. Maybe there's more. We have to find that out for ourselves, and we have to allow ourselves to find out. So right now it's the beginning of January, and I feel it's so important to share where you are, because we are constantly transforming. I have this beautiful card here. It's Fire of Transformation, and it has the phoenix. The phoenix rises from the ashes and transforms, just like we transform every single day. We get up and we change, right? I mean, we aren't the same person we were 10 years ago. If you look on Facebook right now, there are people doing the 10-year challenge, and it's a picture of them 10 years ago as opposed to now. And they're not the same person. They're probably not the same person as when they woke up in the morning. I have a Zen teacher, Shifu, who always said, you're not the same person you were when you started this sentence. You are constantly changing. And I have this other card, Stepping Stones. Stepping Stones. And during that card, I was reflecting, and I was going through the Tao Te Ching, and Lao Tzu, says something about a journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. That might be paraphrased. Anyhow, what that really means is that the journey that you are on starts right where you are, right here, right now. So wherever you are, you have to fully accept that about yourself and start there, not anywhere else. That's why a lot of growth happens when somebody loves you for who you are right now. Maybe you burp a lot, and maybe someone is always around you, and instead of getting annoyed with you that you burp a lot, they allow you to be you. They recognize that maybe you can't control that you burp all the time, and they accept it, and they love you anyway. And that helps you love yourself. And maybe that helps you make some kind of a change when you're burping. Maybe you turn your head. Maybe you go in the other room. Maybe you just try different things. It is something that's, most people can't control, even though some people do try to make themselves burp. If you hear my stomach grumbling during this video, it is because I'm on day 4 of a cleanse, of a 5-day fasting. Now, the first time I did this, it was 3 days and many years ago, and it was when deep spirituality rushed through my being, and I felt much lighter and better after. I've always loved food. Years ago, I would have never thought I'd be a vegetarian right now. I went vegan for a while, and then I went back to vegetarian. But I never thought that I would not eat meat. I really liked meat. And I remember going places and people would constantly forget that I don't eat meat. And they would ask me all the time if I wanted meat. And it made it a little bit difficult at first for social situations. But after a while, it was better. And I got used to it. So I could ramble on forever, but I will get to the point of this video. There's much to say. So there are about 7 billion people out into the world, right? Out there. I mean, give or take. So if everyone is praying once a day, let's say everybody prays once a day to God or to whoever, to the universal mind, to Source, to Buddha, to Allah, to Lamu, to whoever you see as someone to pray to or pray with, whatever you choose. That's 7 billion prayers. And let's say people pray twice a day. That's 14 billion prayers. Prayer. It's so powerful. It's so strong. While doing this fast, it's like, yeah, I could give up and just eat food. Sure. Why not? Eat whatever I want. Cookies, chips, all that stuff. Ice cream, candy bars. It all sounds good. But I'm not doing that because I'm testing my willpower and I am in communion with the Holy Spirit. That doesn't mean I won't eat those things again. I probably will, and that's okay. But this is for now, and this is my practice now. I usually don't share when I'm practicing this, but like I said earlier, I feel the need to share where we are now for others to understand and know. Food is something so difficult for people to give up, right? I mean, everybody needs it to survive. It's not like alcohol or cigarettes or drugs. You may think you need it to survive when you really want it, but the fact is you can live without it. Food, most people can't live without food, right? I mean, maybe there are some spiritual teachers and gurus who have mastered such things and can breathe in the air from around them, like hermits in a cave, or people who have, no need for food because they are spiritually fed. And that's very rare. Most people need food. So it's an interesting practice. It's cleansing to the body. It resets things in your body. It cleanses the atoms, molecules, and things like that. So back to prayer. If everyone is praying, right? That makes it pretty powerful. That we are all consciously saying, hey, listen to this. Your thoughts are a prayer. We are sacred. We just don't realize it as much because we're so wrapped up in the material outer world that we forget how sacred we are, how every prayer and our thoughts are one. What we think, we are. We are a walking prayer. There's this beautiful story about prayer, which I will share with you. It's from the internet, George Ward. And this is just an example of how powerful prayer is. Have you ever felt the urge to pray for someone and then just put it on a list? Like you just wrote it down, or you just put it in your head and you're like, oh, I'll remember. I need to pray for this person. I'll pray for them later. Or has anyone ever called you and said, I need you to pray for me. I have this need. I see that on Facebook a lot. There's people who always ask for prayers for others and sometimes for themselves. They say, I have this going on. Please pray for me. You know, it's a fast way to communicate with plenty of people. Now, let me read you this story. A missionary told this true story while visiting his home church in Michigan. While serving at a small field hospital in Africa, every 2 weeks I traveled by bicycle through the jungle to a nearby city for supplies. This was a journey of 2 days and required camping overnight at the halfway point. On one of these journeys, I arrived in a city where I planned to collect money from a bank, purchase medicine and supplies, and then begin my 2-day journey back to the field hospital. Upon arrival in a city, I observed 2 men fighting, one of whom had been seriously injured. I treated him for his injuries and then at the same time talked to him about the Lord Jesus Christ. I then traveled 2 days camping overnight and arrived at home without incident. Wow, I mean, that's dedication, right? 2 weeks later, I repeated my journey. Upon arriving in the city, I was approached by the young man I treated. He told me that he had known I carried money and medicines. He said, some friends and I followed you into the jungle, knowing you would camp overnight. We planned to kill you and take your money and drugs. But just as we were about to move into your camp, we saw that you were surrounded by 26 armed guards. At this, I laughed and said that I was certainly all alone out in that jungle campsite. The young man pressed the point, however, and said, no, sire. I was not the only person to see the guards. My 5 friends also saw them. We all counted them. It was because of those guards that we were afraid and left you alone. At this point in the sermon, one of the men in the congregation jumped to his feet and interrupted the missionary and asked if he could tell him the exact day that this happened. The missionary told the congregation the date, and the man who interrupted told him this story. Now, this is the powerful part. On the night of your incident in Africa, it was morning here, and I was prepared to go play golf. I was about to putt when I felt an urge to pray for you. In fact, the urging of the Lord was so strong, I called men in this church to meet with me here in the sanctuary to pray for you. Would all of those men who met with me that day stand up? The missionary wasn't concerned with who they were. He was too busy counting how many men he saw. There were 26 men. This story is an incredible example of how the Spirit of the Lord moves in mysterious ways. If you ever hear such, go along with it. Nothing is ever hurt by prayer. I encourage you to share this with as many people as you know. If we all take this to heart, we can turn the world towards Christ once again. Right? I mean, wow. I mean, you hear the miracles of prayer all the time, but sometimes we don't believe them because we think that if it doesn't happen to us, maybe it's not true, but it is. It's true. And sometimes we have to believe that first and live from that place. My dog's barking right now, and that's okay. You know, I'm making a video and he's barking, and that's okay because he's excited. He sees someone outside, maybe a squirrel, and he's barking because that's what he does. And that's okay. And it will pass. So, let's see. I have a few more places to jump around here. So, let's talk about this other book I've been reading, The 5 Principles by Ellen Davenport. So it talks about the principles of unity, and there are 5 of them. Let me read you the child ones, because they break them down for the basic unity principles adapted for children and teens. in the back, it's just a small thing. So it says, God is all and active in everything everywhere. I am naturally good because God's divinity is in me and in everyone. I create my experiences by what I choose to think and what I feel and believe. Through affirmative prayer and meditation, I connect with God and bring out the good in my life. I do and give my best by living the truth I know. I make a difference. So God is everywhere, in everything, because everything that is around us was a thought first, right? Everything that's been created, the desk I'm sitting at, the chair behind me, everything. It was a thought first, and then it became manifest in the physical, tangible world. And this is how energy works. Lots of people like to talk about energy because when it's energy, you can play with it. You can mold it, kind of like clay. And then once it's here in the physical, it's more tangible, right? Well, there's a certain shift in consciousness that occurs when you shift from God as a being to God as beingness itself. An action and a presence in this world, an inclusive interconnection between us all. The mind can only grasp these things to a certain degree, because really what's happening here on Earth is only a small portion of what goes on in our entire being. And that's okay. We accept that and we do the best we can here and now. There's a practice that's done, and it's inhale, and you say God is. Then you go exhale, and you say I am. So inhale, God is. Exhale, I am. If you practice that, it's very healing. Breath work is very powerful. You can do things like say, God is love, I am love, God is wisdom, I am wisdom. The power of I am is something very, very known in the spiritual community, and I think in the world, by just regular people. What you tell yourself, not regular people who aren't maybe looking into spirituality as a lifestyle or a way of being. They're living their life, but they're aware of that, if I say I am something, there's power in that. They feel that, as we all do. So how do you live from this oneness? What do you do to live from that oneness? Right now, the astrology is looking at intention. And, it's fitting because it's shortly after New Year, and a lot of people make New Year resolutions and things of this nature. I used to do that. I don't do that as much anymore because I feel like I've grown to habitually kind of make myself better every moment I can. Not saying I don't have setbacks. And when you do have setbacks, how fast do you bounce back? That's important. But when you're continuously practicing for yourself and cultivating yourself, then you always have new intentions and goals and things that you do and work on continuously, not just at New Year's. This reminds me of the Buddha. And he mentioned the 3 kinds of intention. And right intention is on the Eightfold Path, which is a very great way to practice living your life. Renunciation, so you let go of attachments, small, big, whatever they are. I remember one time I had a coffee mug I received in 3rd grade that said Rushwood Pride, and I was so happy about it because that's when I moved here from Germany, and they recognized me for making it through and doing a great job, and I couldn't speak English. I had complete culture shock. Things were kind of turned upside down for me, and I was so happy about this mug. And a few years ago, someone broke it, and I was so upset. I was just beside myself. I was so angry about this mug. I mean, and I think this was like maybe 5 years ago. And now I look at it and I can laugh because that's so silly. It's a mug. You know, my attachment to things has been less and less, and it makes you more peaceful inside. It really does. So another thing for right intention is goodwill. Every day, forward with all you encounter, without the harshness or the hardness of heart. To be peaceful and loving and kind in all your encounters, in all your days, in all your ways. To practice that mindfully every single day. It takes effort, but after a while it becomes who you are, because it is your natural state of being. And the Buddha knew this. And the final one for right intention is harmlessness. Do what we can to be beneficial in our actions for all beings. Yeah, definitely. If we all did that, what a great world we would be living in, right? For all beings. So as you make your intentions for the year, you set the course for this year, consider these things that the Buddha said about intentions. You know, it's an 18-inch journey from the head to the heart. How do you take it? Where do you listen from? Do you listen from the head? Do you analyze everything? Do you listen from the heart? Are you empathetic? Are you listening to respond? Or are you listening out of care? Without judgment or discrimination, with peace and love from your very being, that you are able to shine forward for others. There's this card, the stepping stone card, right? And it tells you that every step matters. And like Lao Tzu talked about in his Tao Te Ching that he wrote, I believe it might be chapter 11 or 12, where he mentions this. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. And that could be paraphrased. One step, it really means like a journey starts from right now, right here, right where you are at this moment. So if somebody is not happy with where they are right now, they can accept where they are and move forward. I realize I've already mentioned this, but I'm just mentioning it again because it's important to really accept where you are. And sometimes we have to hear things several times, because if we hear them more than once or twice or 3 times, 3 is the magic number, because our true self can hear it then. We may only be listening on the surface, but when we hear it several times, it really helps us internalize things. So, the Venerable Shi Zhongjin shared this quote with me, and I'd like to share it with you now. All I can hope to do is remind people of what they already know, and help them enliven what they know. and how to make it more accessible. And this is a quote from a book, A Dresser of the Sycamore Trees. A Dresser of Sycamore Trees, Finding of a Ministry by Garrett Kaiser. So that first line, all I can hope to do is remind people of what they already know. So all I've said to you is just trying to remind you of what you already know inside yourself. The truth of love, of light, of walking the path to self-improvement on this world so that we can have a nice planet for our children, for the animals on it, and for ourselves. To cultivate our light, to let it shine forth. It's already there. It's just dropping the conditioning that we've put around ourselves. That's what meditation is. So that first part really, it reminded me of those little aha moments I've had throughout the years. Like, oh, like I'm already this love. But I'm not just saying that. I feel it on the deepest level of my being. It's like the aggression, the harshness, the angriness, the frustration, the limitation, all that gets stripped away. And the true joy and bliss and purity of existence starts vibrating at a frequency inside my body. And I'm like, wow, this is real. You know, this isn't just something people talk about. This isn't just something made up. This is real. And it's real because I am feeling these sensations in my body. I am feeling my feet grounded deeply to this earth. I am feeling the energy come in through my crown and vibrate and thump in my entire being. That's not fake. I can't make it up. It's not in my control to. But it's also important not to get hooked on those things. Just like any other addiction, getting hooked on wanting more and I did this and I did that. It can be a very dangerous game. But accepting where you are and allowing the process to unfold and flowing with it, that is natural. That is nature taking its course. And all we have to do is allow it to do so. I met with some prayer chaplains the other day and we wrote down this little thing. They asked us to write, what does prayer mean to you? And I wrote, prayer means being in communion with God and those everywhere. Prayer is speaking to the omnipresence without placing yourself as I am doing this. I am in charge of this world and everything that happens. You know, without placing that ego and control and grasping into it. Prayer is strength and willingness to ask, accept guidance. You know, and not just accept the guidance, but you might accept it as you hear it, but following it, following through. I mean, that's what Mother Teresa did, right? She heard that she was supposed to go to the streets and help all those who some people wouldn't even look at. People cancer-ridden and disfigured and, you know, oozing things out of their body. And she would give them her hand and help them up and treat them just as she would anyone else. Pure equality. And she only saw with the eyes of love. Prayer is perfect as it comes forth from the heart and expands out to the world. Prayer is supportive and helpful to bring ease to spirit, body, and mind. Prayer is a daily ritual to bring peace into our lives. Prayer helps you slow down and come into alignment with your true self. It's expressing the divine, which can be as close as your best friend. And it is as close as your breath that you're breathing, if not closer. A simple thing to say could be, God, I am open to you. Please express through me now. Just consciously taking the time to tune in and ask for these things can be life-changing. There are many people who don't believe in God. There are many people that don't like the word God. Practicing Zen Buddhism, we don't really speak about God. Practicing the Tao, God is brought up as an all-inclusive being, which we are ourselves as well. Studying the Bible, Hebrews 11:1, it talks about faith. The faith. And that's there everywhere. It doesn't matter what you study. The Christ consciousness, the love, the light, it's everywhere. It doesn't matter what way you're studying. As long as you do it with pure sincerity, with the love in your heart, the honesty and the truth, and you're walking that path, you're cultivating, you're working on yourself, you're loving yourself. That's what matters. The cards I just showed a few minutes ago, they're from this Lemurian Star Child Oracle. And Leanne Carpenter and Michael Kroon. I don't know them, but I recently read the book and it was pretty good. And it was just about, the different cards that they drew, and their pictures are just really pretty. I've always been drawn to images because it helps me visualize and expand my consciousness. I love art, things like that. I think we are always expanding, and whatever speaks to you, you work with. But you don't become attached to it. You just do your best where you are now. That is the most important thing. So, I may have forgotten to say some things I intended to say. I may have said more than I should have said. I don't know. If I've offended you in any way, I apologize. If you have gained any wisdom or knowledge or love or light in your being from listening to these words today, I am so grateful that you heard them. Thank you. Thank you for just being here, listening to this, and expanding and working on yourself. Because that is how we shift into a better world. Thank you. Much love and light to you and all that you do. Be well, my friends.